At this point now, I'm gonna make my way towards the main road. Just to see if I can see anything. I just picked up a thermal signature close by. Which is for what the oh shit. I just heard something next to me. There's something there.
The wilderness has a terrifying way of hiding what it never once found. Across 8 chilling encounters, ordinary people walk into places where silence feels alive, shadows refuse to stay still, and something impossible begins stalking from the darkness. Every scream, every footprint, and every unexplained sighting adds another piece to an unsettling mystery. Let's step into these chilling stories and uncover what lurks beyond the darkness. Some adventures begin with a simple curiosity, never hinting at the extraordinary journey waiting beyond the next step. What starts as an ordinary chapter of life gradually unfolds into an unforgettable wilderness mystery, where lifelong friendships, unwavering faith, and a seemingly harmless hobby collide with the unknown. Wild Dream Films begins by reflecting on the creator's upbringing in a deeply rooted Christian family before college life introduces a close circle of friends and an innocent invitation to embark on a modern-day treasure hunt that quietly sets everything else in motion.
I grew up in a small-town conservative Christian family. I grew up in an Assemblies of God church. I still remain a Christian to this day, and so it's always played a big part in my life. I got to school in August of 2006.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, man.
Hey.
I'd found a pretty tight-knit group. My now brother-in-law, Joey, our friend Jordan Brelo, and another friend named Rob. These guys are, still my best friends right now. Our friend Chris, the RA, he came to us and said, hey, you guys should go do this geocaching thing. It's kind of like online treasure hunting is the way that I describe it to people. There's this website you would go to. There would be coordinates for some sort of hidden item.
Flanked by a relentless, fast-moving creek on one side and towering, unforgiving cliffs on the other, the group pushed deeper into the wilderness, certain they were closing in on their destination. Instead, every step drew them farther into an increasingly isolated stretch of forest. The thunder of rushing water became their only point of reference as the woods tightened around them, and the unsettling feeling that they had crossed into somewhere far more remote than expected became impossible to ignore.
On my left is the creek, and then the right, there's like some cliffy type areas in that. So we're kind of just scouring, and we're walking, and we're walking, and we're walking, and can't see anything.
Hey, guys. Is this it?
Shh, shh, shh. And the one thing that was constant was that you could hear the creek. It's pretty fast-moving water. You can kind of hear that water running next to you.
Just checking. I can hear the creek.
So we're kind of walking further back, and you're thinking, man, we're kind of getting deeper in the woods here.
As the group climbed the rising slope, the forest abruptly gave way to an eerie circular clearing that felt unnaturally isolated. The ground looked freshly disturbed, as though something had recently reshaped it. Surrounding the center was a strange waist-high barrier woven from thick, twisted metal, enclosing the clearing with a silent, deliberate presence that instantly transformed curiosity into unease.
As we started walking up this hill, we came to like a clearing, a small circle.
After unknowingly separating from the rest of the group, the two men were met by a deep, guttural vocalization that reverberated through the forest with startling force. It resembled nothing either of them had ever encountered. Filled with raw aggression, the haunting call swept between the trees like an unmistakable warning, leaving the chilling impression that something concealed within the wilderness had been watching them all along.
My buddy John, he says, did you hear that? And I thought, yeah, it's kind of weird.
What is that?
I don't know.
The sound to me sounded like this grunt or this growl. To me, it sounded like something far away that was making a noise saying to something like, hey, I'm here.
What the heck was that? Whatever it is, it sounds angry.
In the blink of an eye, whatever had lingered in the distance was suddenly upon them. Razor-sharp screams intertwined with deep, guttural moans, erupting into a horrifying chorus that swallowed the forest from every direction. There was no single source to pinpoint, only the terrifying realization that the wilderness itself seemed alive, and whatever surrounded them had no intention of remaining hidden.
And then within seconds, this thing that you heard and you thought was a mile or whatever off is now 10, 15 feet away from you.
Something doesn't want us here. What is that?
It was so loud. And it was high-pitched screams and like low moaning groans at the same time. It's not just one noise coming from one area, it's coming from a 360-degree circle around me. So is it 100 animals? Is it, I don't know what it is, but either way, it's terrifying. I'm used to hearing animals.
Before the story begins, there is only silence, deep, ancient, and absolute, spreading beneath a sky swallowed by endless trees. A lone campfire burns weakly at its center, as if struggling to exist in a place that rejects light. Within its fragile glow sits a man with his loyal dog, surrounded by a darkness that feels less empty and more aware. Then it happens. His friend, staring into the tree line, notices something impossible, an unmoving shadow standing just beyond the firelight. It does not move, yet it feels closer with every breath.
What was that?
The dog erupts from sleep with a sharp, warning sound, breaking the silence like a signal of something already too close. And in that moment, the question becomes impossible to ignore. If it isn't just the forest, then what is standing out there in the dark, waiting, like Bigfoot? A silent corner of the wilderness, where nothing should feel out of place, suddenly carries an unmistakable sense that something has changed. As the search ventures deeper, Sasquatch Watchers uncovers carefully positioned branches and fresh directional breaks that appear disturbingly intentional, transforming an ordinary patch of forest into a place that feels watched, marked, and anything but abandoned. Yet these unsettling signs are only the beginning, because what awaits deeper in the forest is far more chilling than anyone could have anticipated.
You come over here, there's something now, for some reason this stick is just leaned up against here.
Where at?
Could it be a start of a, I mean it's just leaned up, like that's never been there. And it's wedged in there pretty good, but it's like, could it be something?
Where's it gonna fall from? You know?
Exactly, because this is already bowed over. It's almost like this is a pre-make of a structure or something, because look, this tree's bowed up, that one's splintered that way. I mean, it's a definitely squatchy signs. There's a break pointed that way. You know what that always means. If a break's pointed that way, hey, stay out of it this way.
What begins as a strangely wedged branch soon raises far more unsettling questions, its placement appearing deliberate rather than the result of nature. Moments later, the forest reveals even more, an unusually large track marked by distinct toe-like impressions, suggesting that a towering, unidentified creature resembling the legendary Bigfoot may have passed through only recently, leaving behind evidence too compelling and mysterious to ignore.
You know, something falls, like what? Oh, it's gonna fall from the tree. That's a tree branch falling. Me,
or some crypto creature, such as Bigfoot, takes it and wedges it in there. Right there. So, you tell us what you think. And if you can bring the camera in close, look at this. It looks like something had walked through here with a pretty big feet. And if you look right here, it looks like a melted print, but it looks like it had toes and claws, like bam, 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 bam.
Beneath the softened forest floor, a series of remarkably defined toe impressions emerges with unsettling clarity, giving the footprints an unmistakably lifelike appearance. The discovery becomes even more astonishing when a massive track lies beside a much smaller one, suggesting two individuals traveling together, turning an already mysterious find into one of the investigation's most chilling and compelling discoveries.
Who's to say? Look, you can see the toes in this one. This shaped like a foot. Look at this right here. Look right here. Get in on this one. Yeah, I mean the foot is melted away to make it look bigger. But look at the top of these right here. Yeah. Toes. Yeah. So you got a toe here, 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 and then it was the whole heel. And let me ask you something. Here, whole heel. Let me ask you something. If you're looking down at these, do you know something different about this grouping?
There's a small one and
There's a small one and a big one. That means more than one. So it looks like this one might be a parent and a juvenile.
Parent and a juvenile.
And it makes sense because they're all grouped together so close. That's why they're so close together and they're not strided out.
Another unsettling clue emerges as a freshly broken tree stands perfectly aligned with the mysterious trail, reinforcing the growing pattern hidden within the forest. Just as the evidence begins to feel impossible to dismiss, movement flickers deep between the trees, replacing quiet curiosity with the chilling suspicion that something unseen may still be watching.
There's a tree break right in the direction of the tracks. So that's another good sign. I got movement up here. I've got movement. Hey guys, I've got movement over here.
Even after erosion and time have softened the ground, the immense scale of these impressions remains undeniable. Beside ordinary human footprints, they still dwarf everything around them, leaving behind a final, lingering sense that something massive crossed this hillside, an unanswered presence that still feels close and refuses to fade into explanation.
There's your size comparison. Human prints melted away, still small. Sasquatch prints up top of the hill, melted away, still huge.
Something shifts in the stillness of rural Ohio, too subtle to name, yet impossible to ignore, as a quiet property begins to feel watched rather than empty. Exposing the strange enters this March Bigfoot account, where silence itself seems to conceal something present. As tension builds, a young witness, Landell, faces two escalating encounters that turn doubt into certainty, ending with a captured moment that refuses explanation. What was actually seen that night remains the question that follows you long after the story ends.
With a very brave young man, Landon. He has had 2 encounters with Bigfoot on his property. Do you remember the Bigfoot flap back in early March of this year in Ohio? Well, Landon does, because on his second encounter, he was actually able to take out his phone and get a very clear picture of this creature.
Landell, who saw something that left him visibly shaken, describes a moment in the field where everything felt wrong from the start. The horses stood completely still, locked onto the field with an unnatural intensity, refusing to move or break focus. Then it happened. A tall, brown shape tore across the open ground in a sudden blur, vanishing instantly and leaving him with a sight he still can't fully explain.
So I was walking up by my horses because my horses were looking at something and my dad wanted me to check something out. So I walked up by the field, and then the horses were still looking up at the field. So I started walking past the field to see what they were looking at. And I walked down there and something was like, just went, like I saw a quick dash of brown go through, and it was like super tall.
3 days before the creature photo was taken, the eyewitness recalls something massive suddenly tearing across the field in a split-second burst of motion. At first glance, it appeared impossibly large, moving with unnatural speed and intent. A brownish-reddish shape flashed through his vision, like a giant form dissolving into the landscape before the mind could fully comprehend it.
So when you saw it, what did it look like to you at first?
It looked like something super giant just quickly running through into the field. It was like a kind of like a brownish, reddish kind of color.
Back at the field, it emerges from the tree line and moves across the open ground with unsettling purpose, as if guided by something unseen. Dropping behind a hill for cover, a brief rise is enough to capture a rushed photo before panic takes over, while it continues calmly through the center of the field, completely undisturbed.
Go look in the back for footprints, and I went back and it like just came outside of the woods and it was crossing over, and I saw it, so I like ducked down behind the hill so that I didn't see it and it didn't see me, and I pulled my phone out real quick. I stood up real quick, got a picture, and then I just ran.
Before this experience, belief in Bigfoot came with hesitation, sometimes accepted, sometimes questioned. But after what was seen, doubt disappears entirely, replaced by certainty that something real moved through that land. What remains is unsettling uncertainty, how long it stayed hidden there, where it came from, and where it ultimately vanished to. Not every terrifying encounter can be explained, and some are impossible to forget. Rocky Mountain Sasquatch presents a chilling account from May 2014, when an ordinary night near Mount Shasta descended into pure terror. A colossal unseen creature circled a mobile home, unleashing bone-chilling, guttural growls, thunderous impacts that shook the walls, and an overwhelming presence that left everyone inside convinced something nightmarish was hunting them. Paralyzed with fear, the witness never gathered the courage to look outside. But another person at the home caught a glimpse of an immense, human-like figure striding away into the darkness behind the property. By first light, unsettling discoveries emerged. Fresh claw-like gouges carved across the window, a thick tuft of orangish-brown and gray hair clinging to a nearby utility pole, and a haunting realization that the strange calls echoing through the area for months may have been a warning all along.
The Bigfoot shook the trailer, growling through my window and bumping the trailer really hard. RMSO responds, "Crazy, did you get a good look at it? If so, did you see facial features, height, color, or anything else?" Snow Creek writes back, "No, I did not look at it. I was very scared. But the person that was with me at home went outside and he saw something very tall walking towards the property behind where we lived." After the second night that it happened, the day I saw scratches on my window and my friend found hair on the electric pole next to the trailer, the hair was orangish brownish gray. It was a big chunk of hair. Before all this happened, I read up on Bigfoots to know their behaviors and where they like to hide,
including reports of hikers being forced to retreat by an unknown presence and unsettling encounters near Lake Shasta caverns. Whether coincidence or something far more mysterious, the pattern has continued to grow. Each new story has added weight to the investigation, and the search for answers has remained ongoing. exploring the unknown on a cold, silent night where the air feels heavy and the world outside seems unusually still. This channel, Tim Morozov, records unexplained signals, strange device reactions, and spirit box sessions that capture voices not meant to be heard. We step into places where silence feels alive and reality feels fragile, as if something unseen is always just beyond perception, watching, waiting, and responding through static and whispers.
Эми что-то поймал. Были какие-то движения. Смотрите. Spirit Box может услышать голос только с того света. Меня зовут Тимофей. А кто ты?
Меня зовут Тимофей. А кто ты?
Ты проник ко мне в голову. Скажи мне, кто ты?
A sudden wave of fear takes over as the presence intensifies and the air feels impossible to breathe. Words appear without a clear source. Who are you? Followed by who will take me and where. There is no normal sound captured, yet it burns inside the mind as if something is forcing its way through reality. Recordings fail to capture it, but the experience becomes overwhelming, like something unseen is standing too close, refusing to leave.
Кто ты? Кто и куда меня заберет?
After drinking the holy water, everything changed instantly. The oppressive force that once filled the space broke away without warning. The disturbing signals continued only on the recorder but could no longer be heard directly, as if human perception had been sealed off. The spirit box stopped responding completely, like a connection had been violently cut. It felt like escaping something that should never be crossed, and returning from a place that was not meant for human presence.
Твою мать.
The place first showed weak signals, but now it is overwhelmed with constant interference. Fear rises as something unseen moves close. Sudden tension takes over. A thermal imager is urgently needed. The environment feels unstable. Something circles non-stop. Its presence feels unknown, but extremely dangerous, as reality itself begins to feel broken.
Please. Не знаю, друзья, что происходит, очень страшно. Что-то бегает вокруг меня. Что ему надо? А в кругу не показывают.
The thermal imager locks onto a moving heat signature that refuses to stay still. Panic erupts after a brief, undeniable sighting. Something appears fully real for a moment, then vanishes without a trace. Confusion collapses into fear. The question repeats with rising dread. Why is it here? What does it want?
Сейчас видел. Что ты видел? Там. Что ему надо?
Is it a ghost or something far more unknown like a Bigfoot creature moving silently through the darkness, watching from just beyond human reach? Franco TV begins with a focus on exploring forgotten, unsettling locations, places where silence feels heavier than sound and curiosity pushes beyond comfort. In the depths of night, darkness fully takes over the forest, swallowing paths, shapes, and distance itself. Every rustle feels deliberate. Every shadow seems to shift just out of sight. The air grows tense, as if something unseen is moving alongside them, just beyond the edge of vision.
That's creepy. I just now seen that. Marco! This is the first time I made it this deep on my own. And why is there a tomb that says killer?
A dark exploration unfolds inside a dense, silent forest where even light struggles to survive. Strange markings appear again, hinting at something deeply unsettling hidden within the woods. The atmosphere grows heavier as fear replaces curiosity. Suddenly, distant yelling cuts through the silence, echoing between the trees, suggesting something unseen is moving nearby, closing in through the darkness without warning.
Oh, look, here's another one. See? I feel like I should just call this place Skinwalker Forest. But I definitely... I just heard someone yell again.
Beneath the crushing silence of the forest, hidden trails divide into two uncertain paths, one believed to enter a dead zone where life ceases completely, and another dissolving into endless wilderness with no return. With every step forward, the air grows heavier, as if the forest itself is aware of movement within it. Then, a sudden knocking echoes through the trees, slow, deep, and deliberate, something we recognize from old Bigfoot legends as a sign said to appear when you are no longer alone in these woods.
I don't know what goes on further down to this forest, but I also know that there's multiple trails, one that leads you to the dead forest. And the other one that leads you to another area. Knocking. I know I have my light on. You guys like turn off your lights so they don't see.
A massive, broad shape suddenly emerges from the darkness for a brief moment. It feels real, too real before it disappears without a sound. Ahead, the door is covered in fresh handprints dated 2023, quiet proof that people were here not long ago. The tension rises. This place is not empty, and whatever moved through here may still be nearby, hidden just beyond sight.
What the hell is that? Yo, I thought that was a person. Right there. There is literally handprints on the doors. 2023. That means people came here. I'm not gonna lie, that is kind of creepy.
Night vision fractures the forest into broken silhouettes, while thermal readings confirm something massive moving with steady intent deep between the trees. A distant cracking echoes again, unnaturally close, as if circling him. A sudden impact of sound erupts behind, collapsing every sense of safety. Escape becomes instinct, not choice.
Look. There is somebody back there in the forest. I just saw it move. That's what my thermal imaging camera just picked up. I came out of the gates because I heard laughing and I came up to here towards them. Oh, fuck. I just heard something else. Holy shit. I'm gonna make my way out of this area. 100% this person has been watching me for a minute now. I was hearing laughing and I walked out towards the main road. I heard movement. Then I heard movement behind me again. I turned on the thermal and I picked up something. And now I just seen that.
He decides to leave immediately, turning away in pure survival instinct. And the only question left formed from all the signs was it really just a shadow of the Bigfoot legend he had always heard about in whispers. Some places have a way of pulling people back, no matter how unsettling the memories they leave behind. Tonight, Cursed Urban ventures once again into one of those forgotten corners of the wilderness, carrying nothing but curiosity, courage, and a strange gift meant for the unseen presence rumored to roam these woods. As the forest grows darker and the storm begins to close in, the feeling becomes impossible to ignore. Something could already be watching from the shadows.
Okay, we're headed back into the forest. And guys, it's a nasty one out tonight. Super humid, like just the dog days of summer. Yeah, super humid. It's like 92 out right now, 60% humidity. It's rough. It's a rough one, I'll be honest with you. But it's perfect for some Bigfoot hunting or squatching or whatever you want to call it, whatever your favorite terminology is.
As he ventured deeper into the forest, a sickening odor suddenly stopped him in his tracks. It wasn't the smell of wet earth. It was a suffocating stench of decay, stagnant water, and something long dead. He had encountered the same unexplained scent before, and many Bigfoot witnesses describe that overpowering odor as a chilling sign that the creature could be lurking somewhere nearby.
Dude, I smell that rotting smell again. Right here. I smell that rotting smell again. Like a few times on the last video, guys, I kept like smelling like this overwhelming like stench of like, it smelled like swamp water, like moldy swamp water, and just like rot, like something rotting. And again, a lot of people told me like that could be possibly another sign of a Bigfoot.
Hidden among the trees, he stumbled upon a bizarre arrangement that felt completely out of place. A massive wooden plank resting in the wilderness, with several more boards deliberately propped against a fallen tree. It didn't resemble abandoned debris. Instead, it looked as though someone, or something, had intentionally assembled it for an unknown purpose.
I guess it wasn't a 6x6, but you know, there's like that big board, which is randomly there, and a bunch of other ones leaned up against this tree that's kind of like fallen down. It hasn't changed much since the last time. It actually probably hasn't changed at all since the last time we've been here. So, okay, we're gonna leave our apple in this area, and hopefully maybe have some, see if we have any results.
Then it happened. A single explosive crack ripped through the forest, so close it felt as if something had struck the tree only yards away. The sound was too precise, too powerful, and too perfectly timed to be natural. In that chilling instant, one terrifying thought raced through his mind. Something had just announced its presence.
Yeah, okay, I went this way. I hope. Yeah, okay, I did go this way. Oh, 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 oh. Oh. That was, dude, that was right up there. Like, oh, come on, you piece of shit. Right up there was 100%. That was a tree knock. That was close, and that was definitely a tree knock. And hold on.
Just as the forest seemed completely still, two faint reflections flashed from deep within the shadows. Their height was deeply unsettling, far above where any ordinary animal's eyes should be. Before he could focus on them, the mysterious figure abruptly shifted out of sight, as if it had realized it was being watched first. The darkness instantly felt far more threatening.
I don't hear anything. I just saw someone's eyes. I saw shining eyes over there. Without a doubt. Coming right from that dark patch right there. I just saw something's eye shine in the light. Real quick. It looked like it was probably about 8 feet up. And then it looked like it turned its head really quick. Like straight back. Like where I am in the middle of the camera, like literally straight back. I just saw something. It looked like yellow eyes or orange eyes. Maybe like an amber color. And it looked straight, and then it looked to its left, my right.
Unable to explain the disturbing chain of events, he finally abandoned the investigation for the night. Nothing that had happened felt accidental. As he hurried back before the gates closed, one decision was already made. This wasn't the end. He would soon return to camp here, determined to uncover whatever haunted these woods.
Yeah, it connects up to the main trail right here. And I don't hear anything following me anymore. All right, guys. I'm gonna pack it up right now. Head back to the car. Then I'll have a word once I get back because I need to leave. I'm definitely gonna come out here and camp. Like, I'm definitely coming out here to camp. Like, really soon, dude. That was like, I can't make sense of any of that happened. I can't chalk any of that up to a coincidence. So yeah, definitely gonna come out here and camp. But for tonight, gotta get going before I get locked in. So you head back to the car because yeah, it's like almost like lock-in time.
But one question remained. Was a hidden predator silently following his every step, or had Bigfoot been watching him all along? On Mysteries Unknown, a terrifying encounter comes to light from northern Canada. A young girl, barely 9, once found herself facing an enormous, otherworldly presence that seemed to probe her thoughts. The experience left a lasting mark, haunting her long after, as the entity's intentions remained a dark, unspoken threat. Tonight, the channel unpacks every unnerving moment of this extraordinary story.
I've got one of the most terrifying Bigfoot encounters I've heard so far on this channel for you tonight. I've got a lady with me from Canada, and when she was 9 years old, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this to you guys, but she had an encounter with this creature, and this thing threatened to murder her whole family. Now, the strange thing about this was in a dream, but in the middle of this dream, she hears mind speak, and this thing says something to her that shook her to the core and still messes with her today. We're going to deep dive into this encounter. Very strange stuff. I'm telling you guys, you don't want to miss this one.
During her childhood, a girl named Natasha spent much of her time at her grandparents' isolated farm in Manitoba, near the tiny settlement of Sardo. Raised in a strict Mennonite household, she quickly learned that certain topics were off-limits. Anything connected to spirits, mystical forces, or unexplained phenomena was forbidden. The strict environment drew a clear line between ordinary life and the unknown, shaping Natasha's early sense of a world far bigger and stranger than most could imagine.
When I was a child, I spent half my life on my grandparents' farm, and they lived in rural Manitoba, close to a very, very small town called Sardo. It was a Ukrainian settlement, but my grandparents were Mennonite. And in the Mennonite faith, a lot of very, I guess you want to say orthodox. Don't want to say fundamental, because Mennonites are not fundamentalists. They're not. But they're very conservative in a way, but they're not. It's very hard to explain. But they're very like black and white about a few things. And they're very black and white about things like ghosts, monsters, magic.
Natasha couldn't recall the exact summer, but she remembered arriving at her grandparents' farm, a place she usually spent weeks living freely, sometimes wishing she could stay the entire season. That year, however, something fell off. The familiar warmth of the farm had shifted, an uneasy tension hung in the air, and the once comforting rhythm of the property felt oddly distorted. The place she had always anticipated with excitement now seemed strange, as if the land itself had changed while she was away.
I remember coming one summer, it was the beginning of the summer, and I came on the farm, and I usually would stay there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and just like live there. And if I could, I'd spend all summer there, but sometimes I wasn't able to do that. But this summer I came there and I was all excited, and I came on the yard, and the whole atmosphere of the farm had just changed, and it was just a very strange, unsettling feeling. Like it wasn't the same dynamic that the property used to have, that I loved, and that I would just look forward to every year.
The windows were often left wide open, a careless gesture that brought an unexpected tension to the room. At night, shadows seemed to stretch and shift, and the thought of a massive, hairy figure silently watching sent chills down the spine. Every creak and whisper of wind felt amplified, each glance toward the glass carrying the fear that something enormous might be standing just beyond, waiting. The familiar space had transformed into a place of unease, impossible to forget or ignore.
She wouldn't close the windows because she's being silly, Natasha. What's wrong with you? And I couldn't tell her that I was terrified about looking out the window, because then she'd go like, "What are you terrified of?" And then I'd have to tell her that I was really scared I'd wake up and see this big hairy creature looking at me. That's what I was terrified of, that there would be this big hairy creature with this big face just staring at me. But I was convinced that if I woke up in the middle of the night and opened up my eyes, I would see a big hairy creature standing there.
A strange, oppressive energy seemed to hang over the land, dividing it into two invisible realms. On one side, the familiar world of people. On the other, a presence so intense it felt almost alive. Breathing became heavier, limbs tense, and an unsettling nausea spread as if the air itself carried a warning. Step beyond this point and something ancient and unknowable would notice. The sensation wasn't imagined. It was a force that claimed its own space, demanding instinctive respect.
Just a real heavy spiritual feeling. Like it wasn't something someone told me. It wasn't something I saw. It was just this boundary line. That's how it felt. It felt like this is his part of the property, and this is our part, and don't cross that line. This is the line, don't cross it. And it was like such a heavy spiritual feeling. That's the only thing I can say, is that it was just this heavy, and if you got to, you felt like physically sick. Yeah, it was just this terror.
It wasn't anything resembling a dog or ordinary animal. The fear crystallized around one overwhelming image, a colossal, shadowed figure just beyond the edge of the forest. It dominated the massive window frame, every inch of its presence radiating power and menace. There were no strange eyes or exaggerated features, only sheer size and a looming silent awareness. The vision etched itself into memory, a stark reminder of something primal and unexplainable, hovering at the boundary between the known and the utterly mysterious.
I don't. Because the one thing that I could visualize what I was scared of seeing. And it was a Bigfoot. Like, I could visualize what I did not want to see outside of that window. I knew what I didn't want to see. And it was the typical Bigfoot. But it was a very large Bigfoot. Like, took up most of the window, and that was like a massive window. And it was a big Bigfoot. But I don't remember envisioning any colored eyes or anything. It was just a Bigfoot. And I remember the actual image in my brain of what I didn't want to see.
For generations, faith had acted as a shield, keeping the unseen world at a safe distance. That barrier, once strong and unyielding, had begun to erode, and the shadows that lingered just beyond perception started to press closer. What was once impossible to sense now made itself felt, subtle at first, then unmistakably present. A reminder that some forces have always been patient, waiting for the moment they could cross into the world of the living. Stacy Brown Jr. and his father, a veteran Army Ranger, investigate strange phenomena for the Science Channel, often venturing deep into Florida's vast wilderness. Beyond the busy coastlines lies a rugged landscape of dense wetlands and ancient forests, places where the unexplained is never far away.
So we're just cooking out, had some ribs on the grill, and as we're standing there, we start hearing knocks. And I was like, that ain't the wind, you know?
And I said, we'll find out what this is.
The men head into the woods using a night vision camera to guide them through the darkness.
We're hearing the knocks and a growl right over here.
On a humid night in May, while camped in the heart of a state park, their quiet evening was suddenly interrupted by heavy, rhythmic wood knocks echoing through the darkness, sounds that didn't match any known animal. With growing tension and curiosity, the duo shifted from a routine campout to a tense investigation, determined to uncover whatever presence was watching them from the shadows. Guided by the pale glow of a night vision camera, the men move cautiously into the dark woods, where every sound feels louder in the silence. Suddenly, a deep growl echoes nearby, making the forest feel tighter around them. Then, more noises follow, branches shifting on one side, leaves crunching on the other, as if something unseen is tracking their steps. The earlier knocking is gone, replaced by a heavier presence. From the darkness comes a slow rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. The father and son freeze, realizing whatever is out there may be getting closer.
We're hearing noises to our left, we're hearing noises to our right.
We don't hear the knocking anymore, but what we do hear is something walk.
Hey, hear that? Thump, thump, thump.
Father and son pause. Stacy Sr. points his night vision camera into the darkness.
I stopped and we panned around.
What he sees next is a vision of horror.
Stacy lifts the night vision camera and slowly sweeps it across the dark forest. At first, the woods appear empty until a massive shape steps out from the shadows. The sight stops him cold. The figure is enormous, its limbs thick and powerful, the kind of presence that instantly sparks fear. For a moment, the seasoned Army Ranger loses his composure.
This big thing, and I just froze. The hands are just enormous. If it grabbed somebody by the throat, it could just pinch your head right off. I really just lost it. I was scared.
Did you messing with me? Seeing my dad, an Army Ranger, flip out like that, it made my stomach drop.
That's how you see us, man.
We are out here in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody coming to save us.
Watching his father react like that sends a chill through his son. If a man with his experience is shaken, whatever stands out there must be truly frightening. At that moment, a harsh reality settles in. They are deep in the wilderness, completely alone, with no one coming to help if things turn dangerous. In all his years, he had faced tense and dangerous moments, but nothing had ever filled him with this level of dread. The fear pressing in now felt raw and unfamiliar, far beyond anything he had known before.
I've been into some situations that were scary, but I've never been this frightened before in my life.
This is the monster stories you hear about when you're a kid, and then you grow up and you find out they're true.
I would put odds on this being a man about 6 foot tall in a furry suit.
As he stood there in the darkness, a chilling thought crossed his mind. The kinds of creatures people only hear about in childhood tales, stories usually dismissed as fantasy, suddenly felt unsettlingly real. In that silent wilderness, it no longer seemed impossible that such legends could exist. Image analyst Ben Radford examined the infrared night vision footage closely, noticing a strange pattern in the heat signature. If it were a living creature, much of its body appeared bare, with darker patches suggesting exposed skin. The realization was unsettling. Was this an unknown animal hiding in the wilderness?
Whatever this thing is, to see a heat signature like this, it would most likely be naked. The darker parts would be where the exposed skin is. This could be some unknown creature.
If this is a hoax, it's a clever one.
Or a hoax so carefully staged it could fool even an expert? Either way, the footage left him questioning what was truly possible. Stacy Jr. and his father meticulously traced the path shown in the footage, examining every step with precision. They measured the gaps between prints, calculating a stride of roughly 10 feet.
1.5, and then mine takes, what, at least 3?
To work out the length of the creature's stride, they measure the distance crossed in the footage.
It's gonna be about, what?
About 10 feet. Give or take a few inches.
That's gonna give him a stride of a little over 6 feet, maybe.
As they pieced the evidence together, the data pointed to a figure over 6 feet tall, its size feeling far more imposing amid the dark, shadowed forest. Every step hinted at something larger, lurking just beyond sight. On Exploring with Bear, attention shifts to a quiet stretch of northeast Ohio, where an unusual pattern of reports has begun to stir curiosity. For decades, locals have whispered about encounters with the legendary Bigfoot, stories that trace back as far as the 1970s. But recently, the mystery appears to be intensifying. In just a few days, several new sightings have surfaced across the region.
And I think the key is to not have your guard up, to not be expecting it. You're in a different state of mind when you're just relaxed, looking to have a good time. But when we go out in a more intrusive way with this stuff on our mind, you know, we're maybe a little bit scared because, let's be honest, a lot of these stories are kind of scary. And once you hear the ones I'm about to talk about, you're going to agree with me. It involves a Sasquatch walking up to a camper in the night. There's a family inside, parents and children, and 2 of the kids are awake. And they have an experience they'll never forget. So let's have a quick listen to this first encounter.
Investigators from the Bigfoot Society say the cluster of reports is one of the most active the area has seen in years. Even more compelling, 2 of those encounters happened right here in Ohio, within the same small area, suggesting that whatever people are seeing may be closer than anyone expected. A few days ago in Windham, a resident reported spotting a towering, hairy figure crossing the land with an astonishingly long stride.
There was a few instances on like Vancouver Island of Bigfoot like shaking campers and shaking, you know, boats that are on trailers being pulled by a truck and doing things of that nature. So that seems to me like something they would do to, you know, scare people out of an area. But in this case, in this story, it didn't really do anything violent like that. It was just kind of curious. And, you know, like scratching all the different sides and the top and the bottom of the tent trailer, like.
Nearby, enormous footprints were discovered, their length and spacing far beyond human capability. The uncanny resemblance to tracks found weeks earlier suggests a persistent presence in the area, raising the unsettling possibility that the elusive Bigfoot might still roam these woods. In Garrettsville, whispers of something extraordinary have begun to stir. Just a few days ago, a resident glimpsed a towering, shadowy figure gliding along a familiar trail.
I wonder, it must have known those people were in there in that part of the camper. I wonder why it was doing that. Was that just it being curious, or did it know these people were in there and it was trying to scare them? I don't know. But that camper was apparently like 7 feet tall. So trying to imagine a bear reaching over top of a 7-foot tall camper or tent trailer and doing that, like scratching the top of it, it's kind of hard to picture in your mind because, you know, they would have to reach up and do that.
Covering ground in strides no ordinary human could manage. Since then, scattered sightings have emerged from nearby towns, each echoing the same unnerving pattern: massive steps, fleeting shapes, and hints of movement where none should exist. The quiet forests and back roads now hum with speculation, as if an unseen presence is weaving silently through the area, leaving both tracks and questions in its wake. Along a winding trail, tension thickens as strange, sharp noises pierce the silence, rocks shifting or something heavier brushing against the earth.
They don't, like, turn their paws, you know, up in that position to do that. So, if this is something hairy, something smelly, it has to be a Bigfoot. If it has the ability to do those things with its hands, I can't imagine it being anything else. Unless it was a person. But it really doesn't seem like it was a person either. You know, they saw the hair through the zipper. They could smell that classic Sasquatch odor that's talked about countless times.
Shadows twitch unpredictably, each rustle weighted with uncertainty. The forest itself seems to hold its breath, while somewhere just beyond sight, a presence waits, silent, watchful, and impossible to anticipate. Deep in the tunnel-like shadows, a sudden glimmer catches the eye. It's neither a simple reflection nor a familiar form, but something moving with uncanny subtlety. The shimmer lingers, sparking unease and hinting at a watchful presence hidden in the darkness. Unseen, yet undeniably aware, it leaves a trace of mystery that hangs in the air like a whisper.
So, yeah, that is definitely an encounter these kids would never forget, and no tracks were found, as it said in the report. And, you know, the tent trailer was parked on pavement, but even in cases when people are just like camping on the ground, like on the dirt, a lot of times there won't be tracks found either, which leads you to believe that maybe there's something more to Sasquatch than it just being a physical creature. I think we're going to be, you know, surprised to find out that Sasquatch is more than just a physical creature. I think it's gonna come out that it's gonna be more than that. You know, all the decades of research that's being done on Sasquatch being a flesh and blood creature hasn't like yielded anything.
A shadowy shape caught in the dim light hints at a humanoid form, but its movements are off, almost unnatural. From somewhere deep in the woods comes a subtle crackle, the sound of something brushing against branches, breaking the silence. Questions hang in the air. Could a towering, mysterious figure really be lurking nearby? The path forward feels uncertain, every step heavy with tension.
So yeah, just the guy in the tent has this experience. He can hear these footsteps approaching the tent from behind, from where the woods are, like the deep woods. And everyone else is sleeping. They're in the camper, in the trailer. There's one guy pretty far away making a little bit of noise with pots and pans, which I'm assuming whatever this creature was doing was using that noise to his advantage to sneak up on this campground to see what was going on, maybe. Maybe the sounds were kind of like piquing his interest. And I don't know. It's creepy to just hear light footsteps like that approaching from behind, like from where you know the woods are.
As if the forest itself is holding its secrets just out of reach, daring anyone to come closer. Across Ohio, unsettling events have left the forests tense and watchful. A dog once froze in terror at an unseen presence, while numerous reports describe a massive, elusive figure slipping silently among the trees. Shadows twist unnaturally, strange noises ripple through the night, and both locals and observers alike are gripped by a single chilling question. What unknown entity prowls just beyond human sight in these woods? In this next case, we follow the YouTube channel Sony Veta into the woods. The footage opens in a sunlit woodland with dry branches and large, dark trees, natural light filtering through the canopy. The camera focuses on the tree line, and behind the thin branches is a large, black, upright figure in fur. It moves left, observing its surroundings, then goes still. It moves again, subtle and slow, then stops. It is aware that something is out there, but has not located it yet. Bit by bit, it eases back deeper between the trees. Its muscular upper body fills the space between the branches as it relies on its dark coloration to hold itself in the shadows, staying perfectly still, trusting the dark to hide it. It shifts again, eyes scanning the tree line, trying to find whatever it senses is watching. Then it settles back into position and goes completely still, invisible again, patiently waiting and watching the strange camera. 8 encounters, 8 unforgettable nights. Each one begins with an ordinary moment, only to spiral into something impossible to explain. Echoes in the darkness, massive footprints, unseen predators, and towering figures leave behind a trail of fear that refuses to disappear. If these chilling stories keep you on edge, subscribe for more true unexplained mysteries. Because sometimes the scariest legends aren't invented, they're witnessed,